Hello. So, today I went to the theater to see Death of a Unicorn. This is the latest by A24. This is directed by Alex Sharfman, starring Jenna Ortega, Paul Rudd, Will Poulter, Richard Grant, Tia Leone, and others. So I didn't know quite what to think when I originally saw trailers for this movie. I like A24, but I'm not a big comedy fan, and this is billed as a horror comedy fantasy. And just getting the vibes from the trailers initially, I was like, this could be interesting, but I don't know if it's going to be quite my vibe. Turns out it wasn't really my vibe. But that doesn't mean it was a bad movie. So the basic premise of this movie is Elliot, Paul Rudd's character, and his daughter Ridley, played by Jenna Ortega, are taking a road trip to go meet a business partner, and they run into a unicorn with their car. They hit it with their car and pretty much mortally injure it in the process. Not knowing what to do, Elliot and his daughter Ridley load this little unicorn into their vehicle and take it to the business meeting that they're going to, not speaking a word of it to the business partner that they have run into this mythical creature and that they have killed it. This business partner happens to be in the pharmaceutical business, and when the news inevitably comes out of what Elliot and his daughter Ridley have done, and they realize that this is a mythical creature and it could have potential healing powers, then they get all excited for the pharmaceutical possibilities and all the money-making possibilities. So this movie is part like monster movie slasher, part social commentary movie, part revenge flick. It's a little bit of everything, kind of as the billing would suggest. You know, horror, comedy, fantasy is quite a mix of descriptors. So I'll start off by saying that this movie definitely has some entertainment value. It was entertaining. It's an interesting concept. I feel like I've been saying that phrase a lot lately, interesting concept. But it is. It has some good performances. There's some funny moments. I'm just not somebody who is tickled by comedy that much. So I didn't really laugh a lot in the movie. There was a couple times where I gave a little chuckle here and there. It was less to do with the jokes and more just to do with performances and characters that were being played. So I have to say Jenna Ortega and Will Poulter are probably the standouts in this movie for me. Jenna Ortega, I think she's generally a good actress. She conveys emotion well, and she does great in this movie. Will Poulter, I think, is an actor who has some pretty good range. In this movie, he plays just kind of a rich douchebag son who's like a trust fund child, you know. But I would say his performance was probably one of my favorites. He just plays his character really well. He does some kind of outlandish, wild things. There's a moment where he snorts the filings of a unicorn's horn like cocaine, so that's wild. Yeah, he just gave a really good performance. I was very pleased with Will Poulter's performance. Aside from just me not being a comedy person, there's certain actors who, when I see they're in something, I just get a little bit worried because I have an idea of what kind of character they're going to play. And Paul Rudd is definitely one of those actors. I would say like people like Paul Rudd, Chris Pratt. You know, since I'm not a comedy person, these guys are generally in comedies. I don't usually vibe with the characters they're playing. And in this particular movie, I felt like Paul Rudd basically just played the same kind of character that he plays in Ant-Man. He plays like kind of this struggling dad who is just kind of a goofball, very aloof, kind of an idiot. It just doesn't work well for me. He's supposed to be playing a lawyer in this movie, and there's nothing about his character that made me believe that he was a lawyer. He was just kind of a bumbling guy the whole time, and it was just, I don't know, there just wasn't much for him to do in this role. And I'm not saying that's his fault necessarily. I haven't seen him in anything where he's given the opportunity to have some range. So, you know, I don't know if he's capable of going deeper, better places as an actor. I think it's maybe just more so a result of him being given kind of these typecast scripts. Yeah, you know, he just didn't do much for me in this movie. Tia Leone was fine. Richard Grant was fine. Again, they kind of play one-note characters. You know, they're just unsympathetic, unempathetic business people. You know, kind of the psychopath business people who are just profit-focused and don't really care about much else, don't really care about people, don't really care about the environment. This movie just kind of sits in a strange place for me. There were moments in the movie where I thought to myself, this could maybe work as like a kid's movie if obviously like the gore, the language, and kind of some of the conceptual things were toned way down. Like it would be an interesting kind of fantasy adventure, and you could make that into, I think, an okay kids movie. Probably wouldn't be great still, but as it sits right now, it's a really gory, really message heavy comedy, and it didn't do a lot for me. So the message, I would say, was pretty heavy handed in this movie. Basically, this movie is talking about how people, and specifically like business people, like corporations, have made ruin of the environment, animals, other people, just solely for profit. How they're basically kind of destroying ecosystems, destroying, animal species, destroying the environment solely for their profit. Basically just how business people are ruthless to everything around them. Beyond messaging not being subtle, the movie was very predictable. I don't think I was surprised by anything that happened in the movie per se. It was all pretty telegraphed in my opinion. I kind of saw what was coming next in every case. Yeah, this is just kind of a weird movie for me because I don't think I can point to anything specifically that was done poorly. If you're into comedies, I think maybe you'd enjoy this. I'm just not into comedies. It just wasn't anything that spectacular. If I had two little nitpicky things to pick at in this movie, it would be Paul Rudd's character. He was just a very shallow, samey character to the kinds of characters he usually plays. And the CGI in the movie wasn't like bad, but it wasn't great. I think if I were to give this a rating, and this is going to be kind of unfortunate because it's not compatible with my Letterboxd ratings because you can't rate in 0.25 increments, but I don't want to give it a 3 out of 5 stars, but I don't want to give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I want to give it a 2.75 out of 5 stars. 2.5 is kind of my range for it's a mid movie. It's a little better than mid, but not much, I would say. So yeah, if you're bored and you want something to do, go to the cinema, support your local theater. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you watching. Have a good one.